Sugar 5-0, I'm gonna hot dog your 7.
Now to win the game, we just have to hold this objective for an hour and 13 minutes.
Oh my God, we did
Ended
it.
up with 71 kills. Thinking we're back. Have you ever fired up a Milson type game, hopped into a server, ambition on the heart, violence on the mind, thinking you're gonna be the fiercest fighter the world's ever seen, only to instantly get schwacked by an unseen enemy? Frustrated, you now have to wait an ungodly amount of time to respawn and then hump it hundreds of yards to where you suspect the enemy may be. After the hundreds of yards of trekking it to the objective, you start to hear gunfire, and as you approach, you get an artillery shell that sends your nose through your asshole. The kicker of it was your own team's artillery. At this point, you're livid. You have no idea what's going on, you have no idea where anyone is, and you have no idea what's constantly killing you. And when it comes to your death, it seems that all the enemy has to do is just sneeze on you and you'll freaking get obliterated. If this sounds familiar, then it sounds like you've played Hell Let Loose. And I'm the reason you hate that game. Headshot through the fence, let's go. Smashing one. All right, you pansies. Sarge wants us to take this MG42. I remember when I first fired up Hell Let Loose, my buddies were singing its praise, talking about how fun it was, how hard it was, how rewarding it was. And I thought, all right, these are my boys. I've been through many virtual battlefields with these guys, and I thought, what's another one? What's a new frontier to go explore? So I hopped into a game with them. I'm already a history enjoyer, and I love me some World War II, so why not another World War II shooter to get into? I mean, buddy, I beat the brakes off of Battlefield 5. Despite its historical inaccuracies, I still had fun playing that game. My buddy sold it to me as, it's kinda like Battlefield, but more hardcore. I was down to give it a shot. But these guys have been through some virtual highs and lows on the battlefield, but I didn't realize how low it was going to get for me. I was gonna give it a shot. I'm DTF. Down to fight. I can vividly remember the feeling of hating Hell Let Loose when I first started playing it. I can't remember the specifics of the matches or what was happening, but I specifically remembering that feeling of hatred for the game. This is my M1. It was that feeling of, what the hell, let loose, is going on? My soldier moves extremely slow. The rifle I'm using is hard to hit anything with these damn irons. I'm getting killed from literally God knows where by everything, and I have no idea where the enemy is. I haven't seen anyone for 5 minutes. I've been running around the goddamn map like an idiot. I don't even know how the game works or functions. Why does everyone keep talking about nodes? How come I can't spawn like point blank on the objective? Why is our own artillery always killing us? What are those guys doing? How do they even use artillery? You're telling me I have to run 600 meters to the next point? I gotta wait 45 seconds to respawn? Why does the respawn take like 45 years? Oh, this game's so hardcore? How about no respawn? You get killed, you have to quit the game forever. Remember, flies spread disease, so keep yours closed. I was lost, nay, I was shook to my core. It was unlike any shooter I've ever experienced. It was not the multiplayer experience of warfare guided on rails, it was all-out chaos. I was used to the shooters that had those little dopamine hits, little hit markers you get, little points you get, little sound effects making Battlefield 1, where it's like a casino, ka-ching, almost sound effect. It's like dopamine crack cocaine, fellas. It was pretty hard to quit. It was pretty hard to put down Battlefield 1 in my heyday. Overall, I did not like Hell Let Loose when I first started playing it. When the boys would say, hey, let's hop into a game, I would get kind of pissed off because I knew I was going to experience a lot of frustration. Then one day, something beautiful happened. Something majestic occurred. It was one of the more magical moments of my gaming life. I went from a soldier that had barely any idea of what was going on, just following my buddies around, fighting for my survival, to becoming a lethal instrument of digital warfare. I could understand the map. I could even predict where the enemy was going to attack from. I could think like the enemy players, deny them the leverage of terrain and use it for myself. I became a master of my weapon. In the open at 250 yards, the iron sights on my M1 Garand don't miss, buddy. Go back to respawn.
Ooh, that was a headshot. I love the M1 Garand.
It was kind of an unreal experience. I thought I hated the game, but then after it suddenly clicked, I found myself very addicted and in love with the game. I was trying out new roles and classes, communicating with randos on my squad and the team to effectively coordinate attacks and properly defend objectives. I was even using real-life tactics with squad, having the machine gunners lay down a heavy base of fire while the riflemen closed and killed the enemy. I remember playing the Battlefield franchises, and I distinctly recall being like a one-man band, where you get to be your own action hero. Top of the leaderboard type stats, really putting in work on the enemy team, getting a lot of kills. The problem is, being a one-man band in Hell Let Loose don't work, baby. In Hell Let Loose, I had to learn to become the ultimate team player. I was no action hero like any of the other shooters. In Hell Let Loose, I was a mere mortal. And the only thing to keep this mere mortal alive and to win the day was the other mere mortals around me. All of this really led me to fall in love with the game, even enough to make this stupid YouTube video about it. I was playing the other day, putting in a bunch of work on enemy team, getting a massive amount of kills, denying the enemy the objective, smoking and joking with the boys, having fun, killing the enemy team, and making it look easy. And I had this moment of realization. I am the reason I hated this game. When you first play the game, you're a raw recruit. You have no idea what's going on, and you don't know your ass from your elbow, pal. Sure, they have basic training and like a practice, field manual thing. What am I, a nerd? You think I read that? Buddy, when I get a manual, I shuck it in the bin. What's the matter with ya? I was literal cannon fodder and I absolutely hated it. I always had bad positioning, always getting caught with my pants down by guys in better positioning, and in general losing most of my engagements, clinging on to life. I was getting smoked by guys that knew what they were doing. They had their moment of enlightenment that I would eventually get, the moment where it clicks. The beautiful thing is that I became one of those guys. I realize a lot of my love for the game comes from multiple different aspects, but kind of boils down to a few key elements. I think one of the biggest reasons is that the game rewards the player not just with unlocks or rank, but with sheer skill. Ah! I done shoveled the man. I'm a hero. I'm a hero. Well, man, the Germans, you know what I mean. So I said that the game rewards you with skill, and any video game really can reward you with skill over time. I think, interestingly, Hell Let Loose does it in such a way that it is very meaningful, where it's not just like usual team deathmatch, Halo, Call of Duty style skill. It is a understanding of how the game works, how it flows, where to expect the enemy to come from. And of course, yet again, those things can apply to other shooters, but for whatever reason, to me, it's never felt more rewarding than in Hell Let Loose. It's really weird how that plays out. You get to go from being the hunted soldier to the soldier that gets to do the hunt. Once you figure this game out, you can put up an absolutely insane amount of kills and really pad your kill to death ratio. Not that it matters, but all I'm saying is that you can be really lethal on the battlefield. I used to fight for my life to go like 12 and 27. Now I can go like 138 and 11. I've rolled with tank crews and we're putting up 200 plus kills, being like quadruple tank aces, taking out the enemy. And it's really fun and rewarding to think like I used to have no idea what was going on in the game. 138 sniper kills on Kursk as the Russians is my personal best. In a world of hyper fast-paced dopamine-filled shooters where it is trying to be as easily consumable to a wide of a range as audience as possible, the milsim shooter stands amongst its own. The funny thing about that sentence is that Hell Let Loose isn't even considered a hardcore milsim, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I would say most mainstream shooters make you an action hero in a sea of action heroes, whereas Hell Let Loose really shows you that you are just a cog in a massive machine. You fall into a command structure where that command structure relies on teamwork, and that teamwork is the most important thing in that game. Now, earlier I said you can rack up a mass amount of kills, but technically speaking, you can do that and still lose the game for your team if you weren't playing the objective correctly. Sure, it may help, but the enemy can just respawn and keep coming and attacking the objective and eventually take it and move on to the next objective and take that. You have to play and work together as a team to best defend or attack those objectives. In theory, you could have a very negative KD ratio and still crush the other team. In some ways, I think that's kind of realistic. And then what I kind of mean by that is that in real life, typically you'll see a 3-to-1. For every one defender, you have 3 attackers. This is to reduce casualties and overwhelm the enemy when you go to attack them. Wow. This guy's like Sun Tzu. In Hell Let Loose, it's a 50 on 50, so that can't really be represented well unless you coordinate and attack appropriately. or defend appropriately. So I guess the 3-to-1 kind of represents how many times you got smoked trying to take the objective. You know, it's like, did you accomplish something well within one of those 3 lives? And if so, it's a good trade-off, I guess. That being said, the teamwork in the game is crucial. With all the different infantry and armor classes you can play, even the most basic amount of coordination can dominate the battlefield. Now, that's not to include the more competitive game modes. I'm mainly talking about the casual pickup game you may hop into. The competitive scene of Hell Let Loose, which is cool, it's in a whole different little genre. All these guys are a whole breed amongst their own. I'm talking about the casuals, the filthy casuals having a good time. If you even use a basic amount of coordination and have maybe 2 or 3 brain cells, you're gonna do pretty good. One of my favorite roles to play in the game is actually a tank commander. Now, if you've never played Hell Let Loose, to break down how the tank works in the game is that you have a tank and there's 3 slots in it. You have your driver, your gunner, and your tank commander. Typically in real life, you probably have a crew of 5. We're missing out the coax and we're missing the loader, but I think for the sake of simplicity and general ease of use, they only go with the 3. Of course, the tank driver has a little slit he can see out of. The tank gunner has a little gun optic you can see out of, which is a straw tube. And then the tank commander has a 360-degree field of view. I like this role so much, and I even leverage my past life employment to use those skills in the game. You see, in the game, there are multiple different chat channels. You got command chat, where all the squad leaders and the commander talk. You got squad chat, where all the squad leaders and the squad talk. You got prox chat, where anyone in the vicinity can talk to each other. And then you have your 4th chat, the party chat, where you and the boys are chit-chatting away. A little private conversation. You got 4 chat channels going on potentially at once, all while there's a whole enemy company-sized element trying to kill you. Your objective is to not leak the group chat. In my last job, I was a cop, one of the boys in blue. How does one go from being the boys in blue to making a Hell Let Loose YouTube video? It is quite the career pipeline. Having an existential crisis mid-video. So I got pretty good at listening to the radio. There are multiple officers to a squad. Sometimes there's even 2 squads working the same shift, so it's a lot of radio chatter. On top of that, you have your dispatch relaying info relevant to what's going on and what you may be working. On top of that, there's even the real-life risks of danger, getting hit by a car, potentially shot, getting that Fenty lean going, I guess, with that one guy. Don't do that! Potential acorn threats falling from the sky. There's a lot that can kill you on the road when you're a road pirate.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
What I'm trying to say is there's real life stakes. So I got pretty decent at using and listening to the radio, how to communicate with it, how to sound calm and collected while on the radio. I didn't know how important those real life skills would come into play when playing a video game. So staying cool, calm, and collected in command chat is pretty important, especially when you're a tank commander. And I have a firm religion when it comes to tanking. One of the pillars of that religion is that the tank commander sits in that command seat. The tank commander don't drive, the tank commander don't gun, the tank commander sits in the commander cupola. The pillar of this religion, and there are more pillars, has served me very well. It's important to stay calm in command chat. It's important to stay calm under pressure in general. Nobody wants to be the panicking Skywalker. You lose mad aura points when you do that. You gotta stay cool, baby. Sure, the shit may be going down, but I wanna sound silky smooth as I relay the information to the Coast Guard that the Titanic 2.0 has currently hit another iceberg and hell. Now you may be saying to me, hey, Bureauphiles, it sounds like you're taking this video game way too seriously. Maybe you should chill out. Maybe you should calm down. And to that I would say, you wouldn't get it. Don't tell me to calm down. Do I not look calm to you already? The tank crew to me in Hell Let Loose is a sacred thing. When I first started a tank with some of my boys, it was chaos. We weren't a cohesive team. Someone always wanted to be the gunner, and no one ever wanted to be the driver. And then of course, tank commander felt like you were doing nothing important. We would not do well. We'd get taken out by enemy armor, or overwhelmed with infantry that had satchel charges, bazookas, or Panzerschrecks. It was a shit show. And buddy, I was the show. Wait. This all changed one day when our friend group that we played with got 2 new additions to the crew, Jake and Tucker. Now these 2 new guys to our crew were already experienced players and very seasoned tankers. Tucker being probably the best tank driver I've ever seen in the game. He knew all the nooks and crannies of the map. He knew how to orientate the tank's armor to best deflect enemy incoming shells. Even through his driver's slit, he'd see enemies before I could, and I was the tank commander. His favorite tank to use is the Tiger tank, and he was so good, as a thank you, I bought him the Tiger tank manual from the Tank Museum, as a thank you gift for being such a stud driver. Now, of course, there was also Jake, who was the S-tier gunner. He knew his holds and he knew how to get his hits. He knew the weak spots of the enemy armor, even though Hell Let Loose tank mechanics aren't like that, like other video games, but you get the idea. The kicker is that both of these guys could do either jobs like pros. If anything, I was now the worst guy in the tank at driving or gunning, and I would just play tank commander. And I would leverage my real-life radio skills to stay on the comms, communicate, and call out targets. With these boys, we hit our kaiju drift. We hit a perfect mental synchronicity. Is that the right word? We hit perfect mental synchronization. Just our 3-man crew and 1 heavy tank could potentially sway the entire outcome of a match. And that's just us. Now, as their tank commander, my whole mission was to orientate the tank, embed with the infantry to make sure we're protected, protect the infantry from enemy armor, and stop and repel any assaults. Now, I do have those other pillars to my tanking religion in Hell Let Loose. Tank commander always stays in the command seat. No solo tankers to a heavy tank. The tank always stays with friendly infantry. If you don't violate those rules, you will have one hell of a run with armor. Sure, you can maybe do 2-man if you're good. It's just wasted potential. I mean, countless times I've seen a solo tank roll off into bumfuck Egypt only to get schwacked by some hero on their team with a satchel charge. No support around them, just trying to use the tank as like a mobile cannon. But buddy, it's not how it works. Without the infantry, you're gonna die. And when the infantry doesn't have you, they're gonna get killed by other tanks. It's a perfect symbiotic harmony. Now, despite all the massive amount of love for the game, I do have my criticism. The game has its flaws. Bugs, historical accuracy, maps, updates, and lack of content in certain aspects really does start to stack up against the game over time. Almost every time we play, somebody gets a mic glitch and we can't hear what they're saying. There was a stretch when I was playing, and I think they may have fixed this, where someone would just crash out. Like, not like have a mental breakdown crash out, but like they would actually crash out of the game. And then after that person would crash out, everyone else in our squad would start to quash out. And then after that person crashes out, it was like guaranteed that there would be a sequential order where someone else would then crash out. Eventually, everyone in our squad would crash out and have to get back in. I'm sure there's more that I'm missing, but you kind of get the idea. Then, of course, there are the historical discrepancies. Now, this may not be a big deal to most, but for a game that seems to pride itself on historical accuracy, it's kind of glaring. Now, uniforms are one thing, but armament showing up before it existed is another. STG-44s, Gewehr 43s, FG-42s, Panther tanks showing up at battles on the Eastern Front before they were invented. It's kind of a big no-no. You got Panther tanks and freaking STG-44s at the Battle of Stalingrad in that game. What's going on, man? I feel like that kind of would impact some of the gameplay. Call me crazy, but I feel like it would. Also, weirdly enough, the Thompson M1A sights are historically inaccurate. They, for whatever reason, chopped the rear sight aperture in half, so it's like a half moon. Oh, the German and American belt feds have way too much ammo. Like on the German MG34 and like 42s, they have like 250 rounds, it feels like, to a 50-round drum. Maybe it's truly a feat of German engineering. Now, I'm a very, very, very amateur historian, and I'm sure I'm missing some more details. Am I more hardcore, guys? Please let me know in the comment section down below what else I'm missing, and I appreciate you and your attention to detail. Now, that being said, to the game's credit, I have fired most of the weapons in the game. The small arms, that is. I've even seen some of the tanks that are in the game fire in real life. I appreciate that the MG42 lives up to how scary it is. When you're getting shot at by that thing in the game and it's suppressing you, you're like, oh God! When you get shot at by that thing in real life, you're like, oh God! It's accurate, it's real, it's raw. I will say the recoil in the game is pretty accurate, all except the one that really stands out, like the MP40. There's a little bit too much recoil on that gun in the game. If anything, in real life, that gun's like a laser beam. There's like zero recoil. Now, I wanted to understand even more about Hell Let Loose and to add some even deeper context to the video, so you must now bear witness to my poor research. No, I know I'm in World War II, but I'm not shaving. According to Wikipedia, the game was created and developed by Australian studio Black Matter, led by Maximilian Ray.
My name's Max Rea,
who first announced it via a successful Kickstarter campaign in 2017 that raised a total of $220,000. It was initially released for Microsoft Windows as an early access title on June 6, 2019. That's pretty cool. It's like an anniversary of the Normandy invasion. It was later released for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S on October 5th, 2021. In January of 2022, Black Matter sold the game to its publisher team, Team 17, for 31 million euros? Pounds? What the f***? is that squiggle? With the potential addition of 15 million euros or pounds, whatever the that squiggle is, based on the game's performance. From talking to my fellow Hell Let Loose enjoyers, browsing the subreddit, hearing the scuttlebutt, is that the general consensus seems to be that Team 17 has really slowed a lot of the progress of what the game could be. Many players, me being one of them, really want a Pacific theater, but all we seem to get is a couple new like European theater maps or another North African map. I don't mind going to some of the other theaters. I don't mind the Eastern Front. I don't mind, playing as a British in North Africa or at Driel. I don't mind that. I think that's fun. I like a nice expansive World War II experience. What I do want though is to be able to be a Marine and hitting the beaches of Peleliu or Iwo Jima, or hell, being on Guadalcanal. I watch the Pacific. Now I know what you're saying. Hey, Bureauphile, Squad 44 exists. Yeah, I know, thank you. I know it exists. I'm aware. Yeah, I know I may appear dumb, but I actually have a level 300 IQ. You didn't think that was possible, but it is. I've seen plenty of gameplay and footage from Squad 44, and fellas, it looks amazing. It looks awesome. I want everything to do with it, but I have a big and glaring problem. It's only on PC. Now, you may think, well, buddy, just get a PC. And buddy, I do have a PC. I got a PC. But the problem is my boys that I've been playing video games with for years now won't get a freaking PC. Freaking buy the PC, David. Anyway, so in life, now that I'm a busier person, I'm in my suburban dad arc. I got a lot of responsibilities. I have adulthood to contend with. I don't have all this free time. One of my rules is that I like to play video games with my friends. That's how I get some friends time in. As dudes, we get to talk and we get something to do. It's fun. That's mainly the big reason. I would probably play a lot more Squad 44 if my boys had a PC to play with. Anyway, the footage I have seen of Squad 44 looks freaking sick. Like I was watching the Iwo Jima gameplay, seeing this Marine get in the back of a Sherman, get to use the 50 cal while he's infantry. I thought that was amazing. I love the attention to detail in Squad 44. It looks phenomenal. For you guys playing it, I'm jealous. I need to get on that train, baby. A big part of me fears that Hell Let Loose will actually never get to live up to being the game that it could be. It's not appealing to a wide range of consumers, meaning less money coming in. There's also very little microtransactions that they can leverage. They pretty much just have cool skins you can buy, which I have bought. I got the SSP dot for the Germans. I bought the frog skin that elements of the 2nd Armored Division wore, including the 41st Armored Infantry Regiment in Normandy. But compared to games like Call of Duty, which is like a kid casino with guns, the microtransactions are not going to rake in the cash that I think those developers will see a massive amount of profit in. They're not just greedy YouTubers like me. Now, despite my fears of seeing lacks of improvement to the game, I do have a pretty big laundry list of things I would like to see added. Personally, I'd like to see some more variants of weapons that were in the war. Now, this is, of course, as long as historical accuracy is in play. Worst case, they probably just throw it in for balancing too, whatever. I mean, you already got SUG-44s at Stalingrad, so what the hell. I think for the Germans, maybe an infantry class where you can unlock the K98K with the ZF-41 scope could be an interesting quasi little designated marksman. Yeah, you're not as magnified as the sniper optic will be, but it could give your squad a little bit of an edge. There could be the G43 with the ZF-4 scope, maybe for the recon class. I like that option so you don't just have to use the K98K and the FG42 in the recon sniping class. I wish we could use the M1 Garand sniper variant they had during the war, the M1C. The problem is that they made so little of those and they really only started to show up in the Pacific Theater in the really like tail end of the war, so I don't know if it'd be that feasible. I think everyone would really love to see bayonets. You ain't gonna be able to shoot straight with that thing on your gun, son. I think many folks would also like to see more option for tanks. Maybe some sort of self-propelled gun. Mortars, I think would be an interesting dynamic to throw into the game. For God's sake, please let me use a BAR with some bipod legs to get some more range and accuracy out of that thing. One interesting aspect will be able to use the other faction's weapons where historically plausible. For instance, the Germans use a lot of Russian captured weapons on the Eastern Front, the big two being the SVT-40 and the PPSH-41. The Germans even have their own designators for those guns because they use them so much. Off the top of my head, that's probably like the most plausible one, like the most widespread scenario. There's also pictures of Germans using M1 carbines. That could be one-offs. There's also pictures of like GIs posing with German captured weapons like they're using them, but who's to say how accurate that is? Like I know in theory Brad Pitt has an STG-44, but it's like one of those one-offs, not like the mass, the mass general consensus like it could be with the Germans using Russian captured weapons on the Eastern Front. But I think that dynamic where if you could use enemy faction weapons could make for a really fun scenario, like you're on the battlefield and hell let loose, everyone kind of picks up the ear for the enemy's weapons. And if you're hearing a PPSH-41 fire off near the German and say you're going to investigate, but then you realize, oh, it's a blueberry over there with the PPSH-41, so it's kind of like confusing. So you have to kind of decipher that. I think that would add some more like texture to it, you know, some more taste, some more flavor to the sauce, where it's just that much more maybe immersive, dare I say. We could also do barrel changes for the MG34-42. I think that can maybe level the playing field for that aspect, where it's okay, you're cooking through all these rounds, because in real life, those barrels get really, really hot. You gotta change them out. Hell, in real life, there's a whole crew dedicated to a machine gun, and it's not just one guy getting to run around. Now, that may be too tedious for the mid-level shooter that is hell let loose, and I'm just bringing ideas, pal. Don't shoot the messenger. My optimism for getting more added to the game is low, but my hope still persists. For me, the game is a perfect blend of relative ease to get into as far as more like milsim hardcore shooters go. Earlier I mentioned the game isn't even considered like a hardcore milsim. It's more of a mid-tier hardcore milsim, if that makes sense. Like, I've seen the footage from the other hardcore milsims, and dudes are like eating snacks, drinking water, changing their socks, calling home to find out their wife's gonna leave them. Like, that's a little bit too much work. Like, I wanna have like, okay, get in, this is a hardcore game, still relatively easy to pick up, it'll click relatively fast if you just stick to it. You don't have to go to like legit basic training and like, you know, have your wife take half of your stuff and then divorce. Like, I want it to be relatively simple, okay? Yeah, like, oh man, I missed my car payment. It was like a 23% APR. Damn. Ugh. Hey, any of you fellas got any luckies? I'm all out. All I got is a zenies. My goal with gaming now is a fun to time ratio. Like I said earlier, I don't got all the time in the world like in my early 20s. I'm a responsible adult now. I got bills to pay, babies to feed kind of thing, buddy. I want to have some fun when all my obligations of adulting are taken care of. And my boys are the same way. They're all grown-ass men. We don't got time to spend hours and hours planning just one assault in a hardcore milsim. As fun as that sounds, I'm not knocking it. It's a me thing. It's not a you thing. It's a me thing. In the game, I will say there can be an appropriate amount of downtime. What I mean by this is, you know, when you spawn in, you got to hop in a truck, get to an objective, or say you're moving to the next objective after and taking the last one, and the fight kind of slowed down. You killed all the bad guys, or you haven't even reached the bad guys yet, and there's some time, you know, for catch up with your boys or meme around with the blueberries around you. There's enough where you can have fun and have a good time with it without feeling like it's getting too slow. I think it's like an almost perfect blend of, you know, smoking and joking versus all-out chaos, warfare, and violence, watching your buddy get disemboweled by an American with a trench gun. It's perfect harmony, I might say. For instance, the other night when we were playing, we discovered my buddy David was the essence and embodiment, the physical archetype of the dude from the Stomp Clap Hey era. He looked like a dude that would have VIP tickets to a Mumford & Sons concert. It was a crazy revelation. It was a great time to us. He probably slayed with those hipster girls, I will say. Now, the guys I play with, myself included, have all pretty much aged out of the mainstream shooter. Our dopamine receptors have evolved. We crave the horrors of much more realistic simulated combat. That's what makes the game really stand out. Hell Let Loose doesn't hold your hand and tell you where to go. It's not going to give you the arcade dopamine hits you got when you grew up playing video games. But if you're willing to put in the time and work and effort, which sounds weird talking about a video game, it actually does pay off extremely well. And if you stick with it, if you truly stick with it and figure the game out, you can be the reason someone else hates the game.
I may be watching this, Gary, so may just get hosed off the rip. But it's not hot, so... Oh, yep, round's coming in. That artillery shell hit me in the head.
Gentlemen, this was kind of like my quasi-love letter to Hell Let Loose. I'm hoping a lot more gets added to it. I'm trying to stay optimistic. But it's one of my favorite games. I've had a lot of laughs, a lot of good times with it. The idea for this video came to me when I was really playing the game, and I thought, man, I'm doing really good right now. I feel bad for the poor bastards on the other team. So it kind of inspired this whole thing. And I figured chances are, if you enjoy this channel, you know, there may be a good cross-pollination of chances you might like history, conflict, and then, of course, in your free time playing video games. So I figured it'd be a good, you know, topic to go over. Anyway, I got nothing else for you. I'll catch you guys on the flip. Woo!